I think this is the hardest part of the whole video, is taking the thumbnail. Did I just turn all of them around? Oh my gosh. Hey guys, and welcome back to my channel. Today I'm going to be showing you guys all the books I read this summer, which aren't a lot because I didn't read until basically around the last 25 days of summer. This first book that I'm going to show you guys is the only one that I didn't read the last 25 days of summer. If you hear a bunch of noise outside, there's a monsoon, so we're gonna ignore that. Okay, basically, the first book I read this summer, which I started in May and didn't finish until about late June. I was in a reading slump, but I really do love this book, and that is The Fault in Our Stars by John Green. I watched the movies, English, Spanish. It's so good. Book, a lot more emotional. If you don't know about The Fault in Our Stars, I will give you a synopsis. Hazel Grace meets this boy, Augustus Waters, at this kind of support group for people who are like going through cancer and all that type of stuff, or like terminal illnesses. And Hazel has terminal lung cancer, I believe. And you know, she meets Augustus. She kind of sees him across the room and she's like, you're kind of cute. She doesn't tell him that, I don't think, right off the bat, but she thinks it because you read the book. And her and Augustus strike up a friendship, and you know, they start hanging out and they're having a grand old time, and you kind of get to see their journey, like friendship, romance. I think it's a really good book. I give it, I'm trying to be more selective with my 5 out of 5, but I give a 4.5 out of 5 stars. Really good book. Definitely read it or watch the movies. It's so good. The next book I read, I don't have a physical copy of because I read on my Kindle. The Locked Door by Frida McFadden. This book is the only like thriller mystery book that I read this summer, and basically it is about Nora Davis, like mid-30s. She's in her mid-30s and she's a surgeon, and her dad is basically a serial killer. He was caught when she was young, but spent her whole life trying to build away from that image that her father has kind of created. She changes her name, basically tries to become this whole other person, and she has a successful career as a surgeon. When all of a sudden things start to change, there's starting to be killings around her area, and they're being killed in the same way that her dad used to kill his victims back in the day, you know? And she's like, what are you talking about? But it doesn't end there, because the victims that are being killed are her past patients. I know, crazy. And basically you go through this whole journey trying to figure out who it is. You get pointed in every direction possible and you still don't figure out who it is. Like, the plot twist at the end for who was doing the killings was so good and so well done that it made sense. Like, you could go back, one of those things you could go back and like you could see how everything was like playing out, but you just didn't pay attention. It's so good. I highly recommend. 4 out of 5 stars. No, that's like a 4.5 out of 5. That one was good. I loved it. I believe I have another one of her books downloaded on my Kindle, which I might read soon. Who knows? Moving on to these very good books here. Actually, I'm pretty sure I read The Locked Door after I read these, but it's fine, we're gonna ignore it. That is the Summer I Turned Pretty series. I love this series so much. As you can tell, I'm wearing a Cousins Beach hoodie, which is where this whole thing takes place. Really good hoodie. Link description. I'll try to link all these books in the description. Probably gonna be from Amazon just because that's where I get my best deals typically with books, where I find them the cheapest and I can get them the fastest for some reason. But if you don't already know about the Summer I Turned Pretty series, let me break it down to you. Basically, it's about this character named Belly, or Isabel. It was an interesting choice for a name, but you know, unique. We like it. This is the same author that wrote To All the Boys I Loved Before, by the way, Jenny Han. Freaking genius. Basically, Belly has been going to Cousins Beach her whole life, and one summer she has a little bit of a glow up. She goes back to Cousins Beach and she has a big fat crush on Conrad Fisher. She has for a long time, ever since she was like 11 or 12 or something like that. And she's kind of figuring out her emotions are all over the place. She's getting out there. She's like talking to boys for the first time, and you kind of get to follow her along throughout this whole journey. I read these books so quickly. I read them in 3 days, so a book a day. I was in love. I do love the show better. Can be a little cringy at times, but like, it's a teen romance. What do you expect? But yeah, those are probably 4.5 reads. I love it so much. The third book is probably my favorite just because of the quotes that they have in there. It's like, I was so frustrated with the characters because I was like, oh my gosh, are you blind? But the quotes in there were so good. Like, so insanely good. Moving on to the next book that I read. This book I did not enjoy that much, I'm gonna be honest, and that is Vicious by L.J. Shen from the Sinners to Saints series. I think I got this book because someone recommended it, and then I put it on like my wish list, and my best friend gave it to me for Christmas, which, love you, thank you for that. But I did not like this book as much as I thought I was gonna like it. Mostly because I have this really bad habit of not knowing what the books are about. I kind of just pick books up and read them, which is a bad habit, but I feel like if I read the back, I spoil the books for myself, which is why I usually don't, because by then all the shocking factors are mostly out of the way. So what's the fun in that, you know? Basically, Vicious is about this girl named Amelia. Yeah, this girl named Amelia and this guy named Vicious, which is his nickname apparently because he doesn't like his actual name because he's named after his dad and he has daddy issues. He has issues. Just period. But he basically bullies this girl like severely, basically because he likes her, but like is always talking down on her because she's poor and her family like works for his and stuff like that, and I just didn't vibe with that. It just was like, there's ways, if you want to do that trope, there's ways to do it but not being like so, which I guess my bad because it's called Vicious, but I just didn't like that element of it. Like he was such a douche and I felt like there was really no redemption arc for him. Like he just barely had any character development, and it's kind of like I hate everyone else in the world but you, but he hates her too, so I don't know what more to say about this. I think if you're thinking about it, maybe go for it, but I also didn't like the language in this book. He calls her help. Like for the longest time he will not refer to her by her name and just calls her help. And to me, I feel like that's one of the most disrespectful things that you can do to a person if they're explicitly like telling you like, oh, this is my name, you know? So didn't really enjoy that. I'm give it like a 3 out of 5 stars. I also hate giving books like low ratings, but I just didn't enjoy that one. The next book I read is Beach Read by Emily Henry. This one is about January and Augustus, which, come on, just name him August already. But January and Augustus were rivals in college. Like they were kind of like the best people in the class, so they were like rivals, you know? And January's dad dies and he has a lake house. And so she goes to the lake house, you know, to clear things out because, you know, he had it with his mistress, so she's like going through everything. And who's her next door neighbor? Augustus. And they have a mutual friend and they're invited to this book club, so they go. And I forget why, but January has to like leave and there's like no Ubers, so Augustus is like, I'll take you home, like it's fine. And she's like, no. And he's like, yeah. And she's like, no. But he ends up taking her home. And they strike up like a friendship, kind of make a deal. They're like, you know what? I'm in a writer's block. I don't know if he was in a writer's block or if he was just doing it for funsies, but they swap genres. So he's gonna write about romance because he like doesn't believe in that. And she's gonna write about like, I want to say historical fiction, but I'm pretty sure that's wrong. But I don't know. She has to write about this other thing. And they basically end up going on little dates. She takes him to like those cutesy little dates, like amusement parks, like things like that. And he takes her to like research things, talk to people, like get your information type of stuff. They end up like, you know, kind of liking each other through all this. You get to see how the relationship progresses and everything. I think this is a pretty good book. Solid 4 out of 5 stars. It was pretty good. And then with that, I had picked up another Emily Henry book, which is People We Meet on Vacation. This one is about Alex and Poppy. Alex and Poppy have been friends since college, and now they're like in their 30s. But something happened 2 summers ago. They would always vacation with each other every summer, but something happened 2 summers ago where they stopped talking, and you're kind of trying to figure out what's going on. But basically, in the present time, Poppy is like, wants to reconnect with Alex. She needs a break from her life. She's not feeling the best, you know? And so she decides to call up Alex, and they go to Palm Springs. 1, because Alex's brother is getting married, so they're like, oh, let's just go there, why not? And you know, 2, they want to have kind of like a summer. They're going there to kind of, you know, bring back their summer tradition, except they haven't spoken in 2 years. So you kind of go through the journey, and every other chapter, or mostly every other chapter, because sometimes they'll do like 3 chapters in a row where it's just their current summer, but they switch back between like, oh, 11 summers ago, and then the present, 10 summers ago, and then the present. Sometimes the present chapters are more back to back, just depending on how the events are going. But that's basically how this book is formatted. I liked it. You figure out kind of what happened with them, because you're like, what do you mean? Like, they're such good friends like 11 years ago, so what could have happened? This is the first book that I tried kind of using like these tabs on them. I like only use them for like a couple pages, and then I kind of forgot. But anyway, this is a pretty good book. I think this is another solid 4 out of 5 stars. I'm trying to be more picky with my 5-star books. Like I really have to love it for it to be a 5-star. Not that I don't love this book. This book's great. That was People We Meet on Vacation by Emily Henry, and that was the last book I read this summer. Thank you guys so much for watching. If you watched all the way to the end, make sure to like and subscribe and leave a comment. Maybe if you read these same books, if you watched The Summer I Turned Pretty or other book recommendations. I always love book recommendations. I have a long list on Goodreads which I will put on the screen. Thank you so much for watching if you made it all the way to the end, and I will see you guys in my next video. Bye guys.